If you're on YouTube, go ahead and shoot some questions, and I'll ask them to Chris. If you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you rate and review the podcast. I appreciate you. We got Chris from Kane's Legacy. You can find him on Twitter at Kane's Legacy. Chris, some of the favorite things you do is your comparison to former players, just like you just compared Thad Franklin to Najee Davenport. Now, obviously, we're not saying that these players are going to become Hall of Famers or anything like that, but right. I want to do a couple player comparisons here. So, Jeremiah Payton, who does he compare to?
He's the kind of guy where, like, first reaction is a guy like Stacey Coley. He's a guy who is fast. You maybe don't realize just how physical he can be. He's a guy you could put in as a returner. He's a guy who can hurt you inside, outside. You know, he's like, and when Coley came in, he was a high level recruit. A lot of people were very excited about Coley. And I think Payton's a similar kind of skill set. I think Stacey kind of gets forgotten a little bit because he was here at a time where people really didn't, put as much stock in our players as they did in the past. But that's my first reaction. A guy who can hurt you all over the field. And if he's got a quarterback that's consistent, I think Payton could be an elite player.
All right, this is going to be a good one. Tate Martell.
Tate Martell, the quarterback, or Tate Martell, the wide receiver?
The Tate Martell, the quarterback.
Oh, man. I don't know if we've had a guy like him come through here in any recent memory. Because honestly, I think he profiles as more like a backup quarterback who, whose best attribute is to kind of go in. If something goes wrong, put him in and see what he can do. I kind of shudder to think that the first reaction I had is Kirby Freeman, which I don't think anyone would be too fond of if you remember those early 2000s, mid-2000s teams. But that's the first one that pops in my head.
Okay, let's go Tyler Van Dyke.
Oh, that's one I've been trying to hesitate on putting out there because a guy that big with that kind of arm, with honestly surprising mobility. He's not the most mobile in the world, but there's some athleticism to him that I think would kind of surprise people. He looks like, and I'm not saying he's a Heisman Trophy winner, he looks like the way Vinny Testaverde looked when he was at Miami. Vinny was a pretty good athlete, and you kind of forget about it. He almost had this rocket arm. Van Dyke was the kind of guy where you see his physical tools, and people all over Twitter always praise him, and they show the highlights, and they show the arm, and he looks like a guy that could be really, really special, with the time and the progression. And I think in offense, that's going to let him spread it all over the field. It looks like that to me, the guy that can actually get out there and move a little bit, not all the time, but enough to do some damage and then throw the ball wherever he wants.
Okay, let's go Jalen Knighton.
Oh, Jalen Knighton's easy. When I saw him, the hardest part about it, like you said, I'm not saying all these guys are Hall of Famers.
Right.
The thing whenever we make a comparison, it's always play style. He plays like this, because it's if you're a young fan, maybe you never saw Clinton Portis outside of highlights, So when I say Jalen Knighton plays like Clinton Portis, I mean that he's a guy who is can be physical when he needs to be. More often than not, he's going to beat you with. He's a very smart running back, both of these guys. He gets you in space. He knows how to get by you quicker than you can make a decision. And I think that's what Jalen Knighton does. Once he gets out there in the middle and gets in some room and he sees an opening, it's going to be very hard to stop him because he does have a little bit of pop to him and he's not afraid to hit you. But if he can get around you and stay with no grass stains on his pants, he's going to do that too. And he's got the athleticism to bring it all home.
Okay. What about Sam Brooks?
Sam Brooks is like that kind of old school, when I think of the way that the Miami linebackers are supposed to be, it's always that Jimmy Johnson model of like move a guy down, like move the end to tackle, move the linebacker to end, move the safety down, because he's very, he's still thin, so he's still kind of filling out. So when I'm thinking back to guys that have come through in these kind of recent memory, a Tavares Gooden might be a guy. I don't know if he's a superstar, but he's definitely going to be a good cog in the machine at linebacker who, kind of underrated when Tavares was here. A guy that was a good athlete, made a lot of plays, was a decently high draft pick, and stayed in the league for a little while. Someone like that who can come in there, use his speed to make plays all over the field, and of course, kind of free things up for everybody else.
Okay. Let's do one more. Let's do Mark Pope.
Mark Pope, man. Like, it's the best possible Mark Pope, like the Mark Pope that, can be like an elite player, the Mark Pope that can be a superstar that people talk about for years and years. I'd probably go back to like a Reggie Wayne kind of type, He has speed. I think he physically could probably get a little bit bigger, because I know he's still pretty slight in terms of the weight, but he fills out like the guy that can beat you. He's such a technician, and he has those kind of skill sets that's there. But Reggie was a natural. And Mark, I think, I don't know what it is holding him back from getting to that point, but when you saw this guy in college, or saw this guy in high school, everyone that saw him was like, he is surefire, locked in, guaranteed stud. He's got to kind of get back into that kind of mindset. And, if he does, I think he could be an elite player. I'm still waiting to see him show those signs of it.
Okay, that was awesome, man. I just want to ask you a couple more questions. I got people in the chat that's asking you a couple questions, so we're going to go to the YouTube chat. We got a question from Sigmund. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He says, do you think we get a second running back in this class? For running back heavy, do you think we go after a second one?
I think if you can find another guy, we're still pretty light at running back. And I know Cam's going to be back, so Cam's probably got maybe one more year, and then Burns is going to be around for one more year, if I'm not mistaken. So we are still pretty light back there, and we haven't really recruited anything at fullback, and the guys we've gotten have kind of stepped out, so we're looking at walk-ons in that spot. So, we're pretty light in the backfield, so I would expect them to go after a second guy. And also, like, you can't put all your eggs in the Thad Franklin basket, because that's a long way away. So if there's another guy that wants him, like at the end of there, I kind of thought there was a little bit of a chance that Henry Parrish might find his way in the class until Ole Miss came knocking. But I think if there's another dude who that we really like, I think they would let him commit and we'd take him on. And then if we get him and Franklin and we have 5 dudes next year, 6 dudes next year, I think that would be totally fine, because we don't want to be light at running back and once injuries start knocking and have to make somebody step in and do extra time. I'd rather like pick the best guy of the group and opposed to that.
That's a great point, man. It's a long time until these guys can actually sign on the dotted line. That's actually one of my recruiting rules. Nothing is official until they sign on the dotted line. One thing that I do like about that, Franklin, is he committed, but then when he decommitted, he said, hey, Miami is still the number one contender, but I want to take other visits and everything like that. And then now he commits again after he's taken several visits. So I'm kind of taking him at his words. He did what he wanted to do, and now he's committed. And it's not like it's at a junior day or anything like that. It's actually a dead period right now. So I'm confident in his pledge, but like you said, a lot can happen. Go ahead.
There's one point about that too, and I saw some people on Twitter saying the same stuff, and being real concerned. They're like, it's a long way away, why even let him commit? He already decommitted once. It's a dead period. But there's also that cachet that comes along with having this guy like on the books. And I know Manny's got burned in the past by it, but I think he's a lot smarter, and I'm hoping that he's able to use this just to get people to listen in more and say, like, look at what Thad did. He decommitted, he evaluated everything, and he said, you know what, that's really where I want to be. So there's a way to spin this, and even if at the end if something gets to him or he wants to go somewhere else, in the meantime, just get in these kids' ears and give Miami the best shot.
Right, and I think if Thad Franklin wants to commit, I'm not going to tell him no.
Right.
So
right.
So another question is, and this is a very good question. This is by Dante. A lot of people are excited about Rhett Lashley and De'Aaron King, but do you think the spread is going to be able to come in and flourish year one?
I think the advantages of it are pretty clear with, number one, we got the quarterback to run it. So it's not like we're trying to make, a bad fit with the guys we had we have a dude who can run it. And then if Kosi stays and he learns, that's great. If you go to Van Dyke next year, look, that's the next year problem. We have a guy that can clearly run it.